I always give away too much. It's like I've got no sense of touch.
Hey Lifer Tribe, happy Sunday, and we are still in Vlogtober. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, and I'm really hoping that it makes an impact, inspires people, supports people, but it could also be triggering. So I just want to let you know right off the bat, like if you are triggered by issues like low self-esteem, abandonment, you know, anything like that, this may not be the video for you. But if you are someone who is looking for some encouragement, looking for some confirmation, and just some you're not alone, then this is definitely the video for you. I have my iPad here because I wanted to make sure that I covered everything. So if you see me looking down at my notes, please forgive me. But you know, I'm a woman of a certain age and I can't be relying on my memory. Y'all know I let my pool overflow a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I needed some notes. But this video is one that is not going to be the easiest for me to make. It's one that I've been thinking about making for a long time and have decided not to. And today was the day to just rip the Band-Aid off, be 100% vulnerable, and just do it, right? Because that's what I'm always telling people. Just do it. Just do it. Don't overthink it. And I really believe that my reason for being on social media is to connect with people, be relatable, and just share my stories and my experiences in hopes that it will help someone get through whatever it is that they may be going through, or be able to come to terms with things that they've already gone through. And so that's what we're going to do today. I am going to talk about things that I learned maybe in my 40s. I'm going to be generous and say in my 40s, probably not till around 45 was I really solid on these things, but just things that I wish that I would have known when I was younger. And I'm not going to do the whole, you know, what 52-year-old Stay would say to 20-year-old Stay, because I can't pinpoint it like that. I've been struggling for a long time. I remember struggling, you know, as young as like 5 years old with some of these things. So yeah, it's been a long time. 20-year-old Stay was already in the wrong mindset. So yeah, it was too late to tell her. Well, it's never too late, but I wish this stuff would have happened early on. So the first thing I want to kind of touch on is I wish that I knew from a small girl that I was beautiful, just the way I was. Flaws and all. I wish that I realized then that beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder, and that unfortunately people treat people the same as they do clothes and fragrances or whatever. Things are in style one week and then they're out of style the next week, meaning you know, just looks, the things that people find beautiful, you know, one day are no longer beautiful, and that you're not ever going to fit in every single mold that someone has of their vision of beauty. And I grew up in a family where not a lot of people looked like me. And so I'll tell people when I'm doing my speaking at conferences or my one-on-one life coaching or whatever, that I grew up feeling like the ugly duckling. And it's always heartwarming when people's response is like, what? How in the world were you the ugly duckling? And they don't believe me and they think I'm just saying it. And I'm like, no, I really did. But it feels good to know that you don't see me that way. But when you grow up in a family of what is the standard at that time of the pretty people, and for those of you who are Black people, African American people, you understand the colorism in our culture that's very unfortunate, but I grew up in the light skin, so-called good hair, light eyes family. And yeah, you'll look at me like, yeah, you're light skinned. So yeah, but that meant nothing because my whole family looked like the DeBarges, you know what I mean? Everyone had the wavy hair. I was the only one who had to get the press and curl. I was the only one who had to get the relaxers, and I was made to feel odd because of that. I mean, even my mother would say when she was doing my hair, like, I've never seen hair like this. Like, I don't know what to do. Doing my hair, wash day or whatever, was miserable in the house. My mother would literally cry. Like, she's like, I've never seen hair like this. Now, I'm not saying this to bash her or like, oh my gosh, she just destroyed my self-esteem. It's just the fact that she wasn't in control of her emotions at the time and not realizing that the things that she was saying to me were going to carry on through my life, where I just thought that I had bad hair. I mean, she would use words like nappy hair or say, oh my gosh, you have hair like your father. And what little girl wants to be told that she has hair like her father, really, no matter what kind of hair her father has, right? And so I just grew up feeling really insecure about that. And my hair never looked like my cousin's hair. And, you know, they could just wet their hair and put it in little curly ponytails, and, you know, and so that kind of stuff just carried through. So as I got older, all I wanted to do was relax my hair to the point where, you know, I was destroying my hair and I just was not comfortable. I'm putting gel on my hair. I feel like if I get any type of curl pattern or whatever, my hair was just a mess, because my sister didn't even have hair like mine. She had hair more like my mother. So I was all alone with that. The only person who could kind of relate to me was my dad. And unfortunately, my dad was the kind of person who was really into looks and a certain standard of beauty. And, you know, I would hear him talk about certain things that he found to be beautiful or whatever. And so I never checked any of those boxes. I'm a tall girl, right? So I am about 5'8". I used to say 5'9", but I guess I'm not quite that tall. But I've been this height since like 6th grade. So that was another thing. If you see pictures of me when I was younger, I always kind of would try to scoot down or be the one in the front doing the little, you know, crouching pose, because I felt so insecure about my height. And I just wish that I knew back then that these are going to be things that I embrace. These are going to be the things that make me uniquely me. I wouldn't even put on a heel until I was like grown, because the last thing that I wanted to do was to appear to be any taller than I already was. I remember, again, my mom, when I was young, talking to my dad about my height and saying, you know, is she gonna stop growing? I just don't want her to be tall. And there were some girls that she went to school with that were really, really tall. I guess they were like 6 feet plus. And she's like, I just don't want her to be like those sisters. They always look so strange walking down the hall, towering over everybody. So again, all of this is in my mind. So I'm like, okay, my hair is bad. My height is bad. You know, I didn't have straight teeth. I've always had this forehead. So that was a thing. I remember walking home from school one day and my cousin, you know, my first cousin, who, you know, everybody says, you know, your first cousins are your first friends. Well, not so much for me. She walked up to me in a crowd of people, and I was like maybe in the 6th grade, and she, y'all know the lottery, the big four. She just hit me in my forehead and was like, oh, I just hit the big four. And of course, everyone laughed. And I wasn't someone who was afraid to take up for themselves. But I don't know if you've ever been in this type of situation where you're too embarrassed to even take up for yourself, right? People are already laughing. People are already making fun. And so you just want it to stop. You don't really want to draw any more attention to it. So you just kind of shut down. And that's where I was, because I was stunned and like, because it came out of nowhere, but she did it to get the laughs and she got them, but they were at my expense. And so I just wish that I would have known back then that all of it was not going to matter one day. One day I was going to eventually be comfortable in my skin. And I just wish that I knew and had someone to tell me then that it was okay. But those just weren't the things that I heard. I wasn't that little girl who grew up being told, oh, you're so pretty, oh, you're so cute. It was just, what is wrong with your hair? And I hope you stop growing because you're getting too tall. You know what I mean? My grandmother, my mom, she would tell me a lot of times, you know, that one thing that she said to me that stuck with me, she said, if you are blessed to be on this earth as an adult, your adult life is going to be a lot longer than your childhood. And this is just going to be like a vague memory. And you are going to grow into, because it was, y'all, it was the big forehead, it was the nappy hair, it was the big lips, it was tall. Like, your girl had it hard. So it's just a lot. It's a lot. And I just love the fact that as I have been able to start running for your life, love yourself first explicitly, that I've been able to be that somebody to other people, to encourage them and to let them know that they are beautiful just the way they are. They are beautiful in the skin that they're in, and that they don't need to compare themselves to anybody else or try to measure up to anyone else's standard of beauty. So that's the first thing that I wish I would have known. The other thing, let's see. I wish that I knew that it was just okay to be myself unapologetically, and that I didn't need to fit in, which kind of ties into the first thing that we just talked about, but also as far as it was with my interest in the things that I like to do. I have always been someone who has liked to speak to people for whatever reason. My parents tell stories about when I was really young and we lived like in a townhouse type of community, and I would play outside on the front patio. And I was only maybe 4 or 5 years old, but at that young age, I was persuasive enough and charismatic enough to be able to talk grown adults into coming into my house to see my room, right? And so, you know, back in those days in the 70s or whatever, people were a little bit more relaxed. We didn't have the doors locked. And so my mom would be in the house, and here I come in through the sliding glass door with some grown person holding my hand. And they're like, we're so sorry. She just wanted us to come see her room. And they would actually do it. That's really always been like a gift for me, just to be able to talk to people, which is funny because I'm also kind of shy as well. But I think the shyness came later in life once I went through some bullying, some teasing, and then you just kind of want to shut up. I just want to fade in the background. But when I was really young and had not had too much trauma to my mind, I was really outgoing. And so I tell people, I joke all the time and say I'm owed some money because I think I invented podcasts. Because when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, I had my own little podcast. I would open up my bedroom window and I would sing, because I've been singing since I was about 3 years old. So I would sing popular songs that were on the radio. I would talk about whatever went on during the day, talk about things in the neighborhood. And I had a few of my neighbors who would actually listen and respond to me and clap and whatever. And yeah, at a certain point, I just started feeling like that was weird, and no one else was really doing those kind of things. No one else was into that. I always felt like I was going to be some kind of newscaster or have some sort of show like Oprah Winfrey and interview people, but it just wasn't the cool thing to do. People were more into sports and things like that, and so I just didn't get a lot of encouragement when it came to that. And I did get accepted to the School of Performing Arts when I was in 7th grade, I believe, but it was not right there local. It was actually downtown, and so I was gonna have to catch the city bus, the, there's a siren, y'all. Life happens even when you're recording. But I was gonna have to catch the public city bus, and my mother just wasn't comfortable with that. I really wish I would have had that opportunity, because then I would have been around more like-minded students and teachers to kind of nurture those talents I had, but I didn't, and I gave up because I just wanted to fit in. So I just started playing basketball, which I was not that great. I ran track, was really good at track, but I didn't love it. So I didn't pursue it the way I probably should have. I just did it just to fit in, just to be doing something. But yeah, I just wish that I would have known that it was okay to pursue my passions and do what I knew that I wanted to do to make me feel good, instead of just trying to do what everyone else was doing. Like I used to try out for cheerleading. I tried out for the dance squad for school, and I did make it for the dance squad when I was in 11th and 12th grade, but that was never my passion. But again, no one else was talking about, broadcasting and interviewing and performing. So I just wish I would have known it's okay to be different. Do you, be unapologetic, and do the things that are going to feed your soul and the things that are going to give you pleasure in life. And so I didn't revisit those things until I was much older. But another thing that I like to share all the time is you're never too old. Whatever it is, whatever that thing is that's been brewing in you since you were 6, 7, 8 years old, if it's still there, tap into it, because once you get the right mindset, once you're comfortable in the skin that you're in, once you're no longer trying to fit in, once you don't care what anybody thinks, that's the time to do it, because you're going to give it 100% and you are going to flourish. So let's see, what else is it? I wish that I would have known a long time ago that controlling your anger is a superpower. That having emotional intelligence and soft skills is very important, because I was extremely emotional when I was younger, kind of like a tick tick boom type of personality. I guess because I felt like I had dealt with bullying so much, I got to a certain point where I wasn't taking anything from anybody and I was just gonna explode. And it might take a little while, but I went from, I'm definitely a recovered, delivered fight or flight personality, which is why I'm so passionate about soft skills and emotional intelligence, and why I believe that it is so important to teach these things at a very young age, because it was never taught to me. And so I went from being bullied and enduring all of the name calling and the picking on and all that, to then I'm not taking anything from anybody, and I would just explode. I've been suspended from school several times, from 6th grade all the way through 12th grade. Now, one thing about it is I was not ever the person to start things. I really was more likely to just kind of float under the radar. I had friends. I got along with certain people. Things were fine, but I was never going to be that rah-rah person starting anything. However, if somebody started something with me, I didn't know how to control my anger. I would be, and I think it was just a lot of pent up frustration and anger from the times where I didn't take up for myself. So by the time I was like middle school, high school, I had just had it. And I never was taught. I was always taught that, you fight, you stand up for yourself. If you don't, then there's something wrong with you, and you are the one who is going to have to stop people from picking on you. And the only way that you stop them from picking on you is, you lash out. You're going to have to teach them. And so early on, when I didn't take up for myself, I was made to feel bad, like there was something wrong with me. I was less than, people were always going to walk all over me. I'm a doormat. So then there was no middle of the road. It was like, so if you don't take up for yourself, it's horrible. But then when you take up for yourself, now it's you're always in trouble, you're always in trouble. So I just wish that I would have had some anger management, some emotional intelligence, some soft skills. And I love being the person to be able to do that for other people now, because it's so important. We can't just be out here acting on emotion, acting out, exploding. It's just not a good look. And especially in this day and age, you just don't know what you might get on that other end. So I'm glad that I've learned that now. I'm glad that I was able to instill that in my children. I'm glad that I've been able to make a career and a business out of teaching people those very, very important skills that are actually life-changing. Because if you don't know how to control your emotions, if you don't know how to be an effective communicator, if you don't have the skills and tools that you need to effectively resolve conflicts, you can wind up in a world of trouble. I mean, it's people lose their jobs behind that type of thing. People lose relationships behind that type of thing. And I just wish that I would have had those skills and tools earlier. However, what I do realize in a lot of this, and you hear it a million times, and it's true, all of those things made me who I am today, and I'm proud of who I am today. However, I'm never going to be that person who says, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing, because I would. I wouldn't want to go back and live that same life that I lived. I'm glad that since I did have to live it, I'm able to help other people not have to live it. But I'm telling you, if somebody came and swapped it out and said, look, we'll give you these skills and tools and support so you don't have to deal with any of it, sign me up. Sign me up. I'm not, I guess I'm just not that, is it humble to say, yes, I wouldn't change a thing? No, I definitely would. Let's see, what's something else? I wish I knew back then that there was no need to be in a serious relationship with a guy at a certain age. I was in my first serious relationship at 18 years old. I ended up having my first son at 20 years old, 6 months after I turned 20, and I just wasn't equipped. I wish that I knew, though, that I could depend on myself back then, because there were a lot of decisions that I made because I had my son so young, because I had my son out of wedlock. I let the judgment and opinions of others cause me to make decisions that I now wish I would have done differently. Like, I wish that even though I was young and having a child for the first time, I was still an adult. I was 20 years old. I was working. I was in school. And I wish that I would have had the courage to just move out on my own. I didn't. I stayed home. And I stayed home. And I truly believe that that wasn't the best decision, because then there were too many hands in the pot, too many chefs in the kitchen. I grew up, or I allowed my son to grow up in a house where I was still being treated like a child, if that makes sense. So my son did not grow up in his very formative years realizing the respect that he needed to have for his mom. He didn't grow up in his young years realizing that I was the parent and that I was his support system. He looked at my parents more as parents, because he still saw me being chastised and fussed at, and and I just wish that I would have had the courage to say, hey, this is not the ideal situation, but this is my child. I'm an adult. I can move out on my own. Because even if I would have had to struggle for a while, I know me. I would have definitely made the best out of the situation. I would have been able to not, after a long period of time, stand on my own 2 feet and do what I needed to do to be able to raise my son on my own. But I just didn't have the courage then. I was still very much, I guess, feeling like I had to listen to my parents, and my parents are already upset that I'm in this situation, and so I don't want to make it worse. They were telling me not to leave. They were telling me that I was not able to do it on my own, and I guess I believed that, and I just wish that I would have known that, hey, I can stand on my own 2 feet. But what I wish I would have known before then is that I didn't need to be in that type of relationship at 18, 19 years old anyway. And that's something that I tell young people all the time. Like, it's fine to date, but when you're that young, you don't know yourself, let alone really knowing someone else. And a lot of things can happen when you get in those serious relationships at such a young age that, your young mind just is not prepared. So I wish I would have known that. There's a lot of things that I would have done differently. Let's see, what else? I think I covered just about everything, except for the last thing, which there's a lot. We could go on for days and days, but there was just a few things I really wanted to touch on. But the main thing I wish that I would have known is that this day was coming, and that eventually, and this kind of gets me choked up. And I'm not a super emotional person anymore, but this gets me choked up. But I just wish that I knew that this day was coming, and that one day it was all going to be okay. And everything was going to make sense. And even the things that aren't okay, it's still okay. Because no one's perfect. Life isn't perfect. But you'll survive. You'll do well. You'll be successful. You'll be comfortable. And you're going to love yourself. And I wish that I would have known that, because there were many a days that I doubted all of that. I wondered, is everything ever going to be okay? Am I going to live in this chaos forever? Am I going to live with these feelings of doubt? Am I gonna live with these feelings of unworthiness? Is this how it's always gonna be? And I wish that I would have known then that no, it's not always gonna be like that. And so I'm glad to say that I sit here today in full confidence. I sit here today loving myself first explicitly every single day. I sit here today knowing that I'm worthy, knowing my purpose, and fully walking in every single bit of it each and every day. And that my passion, my hope, and my desire is to help someone else do the same thing. So I hope that this video was insightful and impactful to someone. I hope that it helps someone who may still be struggling with some of those things. I hope that something I said made you realize that, yeah, everything is fine and you are perfectly imperfect just the way you are, and don't let anyone tell you any different. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If this was your first time here with the Lifer Tribe, welcome, welcome, welcome. And hopefully something was said that made you decide to go ahead and hit that subscribe button to become a permanent part of this tribe, because we are all about uplifting, motivating, and sharing, and making an impact, a positive impact on one another. So guys, you know the drill. Be kind to one another, love one another, but never stop living your life. LYFE. Love yourself first explicitly. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Happy Vlogtober, y'all.
I always give away too much. It's like I've got no sense of touch. I'm always pouring out my heart, no, little by little here.